What is up, guys? Welcome back. I hope you're excited to be here, as excited as I am to be here literally right now. We're jumping into 1 Peter this week. I'm excited that you're here. If you're here watching the video right now, that means God has you here for a reason, and we can learn if we jump in and read the word together. So let's jump in and look at 1 Peter chapter 1. But remember, Pastor Tom talked about in the last video the coma method. Context, observation, meaning, and application. I wrote it in bold here. I don't know if you can see that. We're going to make sure we use the coma method as we jump in. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to hit some of the highlights that when I read through 1 Peter, some of the things that I found and I thought were interesting. And so I'm going to go over some of those really quick. So jumping into verse 3, 4, and 5, it talks about a living hope. Through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead to inheritance incorruptible, undefiled, and that does not fade away, reserved in heaven for you. So a lot of people hope in a lot of different things in our world, but we have this living hope. We believe that Jesus is alive. He lived, he came, lived 33 years on the earth, died, and he rose again. We believe Jesus is still alive, and that's why it doesn't just say we have hope in Jesus. No, we have a living hope because Jesus is still alive today. So that's those verses. Verse number 12, it talks about angels at the end of that verse, angels to desire to look into. It's like, what angels desire? Are angels real? Yes. Pastor Tom, last video, is like, are angels real? Yes. The answer is yes. They serve different roles and they have different functions. And they do things for the Lord. You've heard like maybe the death angel that went through in Egypt, the angel Gabriel who came down and talked to Mary. Yes, angels are real, to answer that question. Let's look at verse 13. It says, therefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So gird up the loins of your mind. What does that mean? Be sober. That means let's not let things overtake our mind that are going to distract us from what God has for us. So obviously it says be sober. You at first assume alcohol, like don't drink. But no, that just means be sober is a broad statement. It's saying, look, don't let things, alcohol is something that if you do too much of it, it can actually take over your mind. Also, something like drugs that can overtake your mind, or even just thinking about one thing and your whole life is like based on, wow, because I think about this all the time, I want to do this, all your actions reflect what you want to do with this. Being sober-minded is, look, don't let one thing eat up everything inside of your brain. Be sober-minded. Rest your hope. What are we going to rest our hope in? On Jesus, that living hope that we talked about earlier. Verse 14, as obedient children, not conforming yourself to former lust as in your ignorance. And so we're going to guard our heart. A lot of the times our hearts are going to want to do things. Before we were Christians, before we used to live our life a certain way, but now that we're followers of Christ, that we believe in the living hope of Jesus, we're not going to conform. Yes, my heart may want to do that, but I know better that because of what I've read through his word, I know I'm not supposed to do that, and I'm not going to do that. So we have gird your mind in 13, guard your heart in verse 14, and then 15 and 16 it says, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct, because it is written, be holy, for I am holy. So that is God saying, look, be holy. Why is he calling us to be holy? He's not calling us to do something he's not already done. He calls us to be holy because he's already done that, and he is holy, and that is guiding your lifestyle. So gird your minds, guard your hearts, guide your lifestyle in those 3 verses. The next one we're going to look at, verse 18. Knowing that you were not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold from your aimless conduct received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ as a lamb without blemish or spot. So why is it important that it talks about the blood, the precious blood of Christ? Why is it that we were redeemed with that? Well, in the Old Testament, before Jesus came on this earth, the Bible in Romans talks about the wages of sin is death. And so what I've earned when I do a sin, I earn death. And how to pay for that sin, death comes by shedding blood. You have to shed blood to die. And so in the Old Testament, they would kill animals. They would shed their blood on the altar, and that would temporarily pay for their sins. Well, when Jesus came, he came, lived on this earth, and he lived a holy, perfect life. And then he had died and had to shed his blood. Why? So that he we could be redeemed, not with silver or gold, but with the blood of Christ as a lamb without blemish. He was the perfect sacrifice that now when God looks down, because I believe that he doesn't see me and my sin that deserves death, but he sees Jesus because he's the perfect without blemish and he died in my place. And that's how I can have, I can talk and speak with God, have communion with God, because Jesus had to shed his blood. And that's why the precious blood of Christ is very emphasized. And then the last thing I have in chapter 1, 24 and 25, it says, all flesh is as grass, and all the glory of man as the flower of the grass. The grass withers, and the flower falls away, but the word of the Lord endures forever. Just emphasizing that there's a lot of things on this earth that we can do that can eat up our time, but ultimately the word of the Lord endures forever. Are we doing something today that is going to last 100, 200 years from now, which is talking about really eternity? Are we doing those things that are going to endure forever? So that's the main things. You might have got something different out of chapter 1. I'm sure you did. I hope you did. Those are some of the main things I learned in chapter 1. Next video, when we come back on here, chapter 2, some of the main concepts we're going to hit. In verse 6, it talks about a chief cornerstone. In our series, Reality Check, Pastor Tom talked about the cornerstone, the foundation, but we're going to be talking about that next video. Verse 9 talks about a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. Am I a priest? Are you a priest? I'm not sure. We'll have to find out next week. 13, it says, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether to the king as supreme or to the governor. Are we supposed to submit to the governor? Is it talking about a governor like when we're told to wear a mask? Are we supposed to submit? And then verse 18, servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear. Servants, is that talking about servants? Is that the same thing as a slave? I'm not 100% sure. Come back next video and find out. That's all I've got for you guys today. Make sure you grab your pen, your notebook, and your Bible. Let's dive in. I'll see you guys later.